Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Today is the April 19th, 2022 Board of Selectmen special meeting. It's a special meeting because we don't typically meet on the third Tuesday of the month. We'll start by a roll call. Myself, Bob Carlson, the first selectman, Brett Mastriani, selectman, Nicole Porter, selectwoman. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, Mr. Armstrong? Can you pick either one? Oh, you got it. No, you need it for that.
I was interested in what the governor was saying about reducing taxes on motor vehicles. So today I spent a little time and went on the internet just to look up exactly what they're saying. And it doesn't look like it's going to hurt us because they're going to reduce that mandatory or high number of 45 mils down to 29. And then they're going to reimburse the town, the revenue that they're going to miss. So it shouldn't bother us at all. But I was kind of curious about that. And I didn't know how much you people were following it.
Following it, I saw that was at 29 or 29.2. But and then it was also proposed, I think, 32.5.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks like the 29 or 29.2 is probably going to go through, and we'll get reimbursement. Yeah. But it's more into next year's.
Yeah, 2022, I think.
Right.
Okay.
But thank you. Any other comment? Okay, Laura, go ahead and speak.
Hi, I just had a question. So Milltown Arts is planning a series of end plan air events, which is pretty much a couple of artists hanging out in a place painting outside. If we were looking to use the town green on July 24th, is there a process to get approval that like a couple of us could hang out and paint there? Does it matter? Do you care?
You say you're going to hang out and paint, or you're going to sell painting, or what are you doing?
We're not selling painting. We would literally be setting up some easels and painting either the main street or the river or something.
I'll let Christine weigh in, but I don't.
So Laura, at the Village Green off of Main Street?
Correct.
We don't currently have a process. So if you would send me an email and then I can mark on a new master calendar I will create for that space to make sure we know that you are supposed to be there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Christine, I've never seen that permit. I see artists set up easels everywhere and just stop painting. So, but I understand what you're saying. If people are going to start using the green, you might as well have a schedule for it.
Yeah, since it's public space, it's open to anyone to use, but just since they know they're going to be there, and if they're going to publicize it this way, we can just know.
Well, maybe we should start a trend. That'd be great to see more artists around town doing things like that. Thank you. Okay, are there any comments by the two selectmen? No, none by Nicole, Brett, none by Brett. First selectman comments, reports, correspondence. I have nothing this evening. Old business, John Dean Gallup House rental. So when we left this last time, we spoke about trying to determine what the rental application would look like. Also, I have an extra sheet I want to bring you that was from the original application. I think because of what was brought up at the last meeting when the use of the building may be used for non-residential. So this sheet was included in the last application. And basically what it is, and we can get rid of the where it says monthly rental amount, because at that time they're actually asking the people to propose what they would pay. So the first line is not applicable, but underneath that where it says proposed use of building, plan for preservation and upkeep, proposed name and address. So just asking the people that are going to be potential applicants, what they plan on doing. Could they be living there by themselves with a pet? Are they going to be fixing the thing up as they go along? Are they going to have a family of 3? Is it going to be somebody from Milltown Arts having a studio? So I just think adding this to the application made sense. The application that you received in your packet, we're advised by the attorney that we don't need to ask for the social security number since the person's actually giving us all the other information on their credit history. So that made sense to me. Why are we going to run credit checks if they're providing us all the information? So I would just say that unless you disagree, we would knock out the second line, which is social security number. And on the other piece of paper I just gave you, knock out the first line that says monthly rental amount, because we're not asking, we'll be pretty much determining what that'll be. So let's have some discussion. What kind of questions, answers?
I mean, I had a chance to take a look at it at home. And saw the email about the social security number. I don't have a problem. I do like adding in these questions as far as plan for preservation and upkeep. I like that part. But otherwise, I don't have an issue with anything in it.
So as the application's written with the second page, the addendum of the second page, you're comfortable sending that out as a, vote, you're comfortable voting yes for us as a board to send this out to start getting applicants in?
I'm
Okay.
fine.
Brett?
Yeah, I would just, before we send it out, obviously, come up with our rental cost per month, and discuss that and vote on that.
Sure. Do you have any ideas on that subject?
So I would propose that I'm looking for it here, do at least a rental for the home at $1,650. I know it's more than we had 4 years ago, or whenever the last renter was in there. But looking at what properties are renting for, it's even at that price, it's significantly less than most properties for a house in North Stonington. Even apartments are about $1,312 to $1,300.
So are you considering the fact that they're, the utilities, the town is not paying utilities, so they're
Yeah.
paying oil, electric?
Yeah, every rental property that you rent, you usually don't get utilities included.
So, and I'm not saying I disagree, I just want to be the devil's advocate for a minute. So we know that oil in that house in the mid part of winter is about $400 a month, right? Because
Yep.
there's not a lot of insulation in the walls, and hopefully before next winter, we'll have the windows changed. So at least we have some savings there. So if we're talking utilities of roughly $500 to $600 a month,
I think that's average. I mean, my oil bill's about $400 a month. But I think that's just customary with renting a whole home compared to a townhouse or an apartment.
okay.
And with that price, it's still lower than anything else for a house in town.
And most of the homes you're talking of more of a modern type that have air conditioning, any of that kind of thing. Because this, obviously, we know this house is very colonial. It doesn't have a lot of it does have a dishwasher, does have a, we'll have a refrigerator apparently,
Right.
but
And when I look at it, I priced it slightly higher than what an apartment would be. But I mean, if you look around, even in the whole area, you don't see anything. So even in Ledyard, there's, one bedroom, one bath are $1,200 for an old apartment attached to someone's house. I just think if we're, the amount of money that has been put into it in future renovations that we might have to do after people move out, I think discounting it very low is not the right thing, but putting it on the higher end isn't. So that's why when I looked at some numbers, this was in line with the pretty much lowest for a home, a complete home.
Nicole, do you have any comment?
I mean, I know that we have toyed in the past with having certain duties regarding whether that be trail upkeep or just something contributing to the Hewitt Farm property itself. I don't think it's realistic to ask a tenant to do any kind of upkeep on the home. especially when we want to have more of a say in what what those renovations might be. What is our cost to maintain it right now without anybody in it?
So when we were filling the oil tanks on a 6-week basis, it was probably about $600 to fill it because of the price of oil right now, because no one is occupying the house. The electric bill is only about $15 a month. Obviously that would go up for anyone that would be actually using the electricity in it. And other than that, there really aren't many other maintenance costs as it sits vacant.
Does that have a well? I mean, does that have a well? Or does it use town water? Isn't that
There is not a water bill that comes for 14 Hewitt Road. There's
Oh.
just for the community garden. So
I think there's a well there on the
I
property.
think there's a well. There's a capped well, but I think there's also a regular well. And according to the property card, it is officially a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom property.
so? I understand what you're saying, Nicole, as far as when they put this out the last time, and they got very few people because they had that ad, which I put the second page on, of what else will you do? And I think that's what we're putting on to say, are you just coming to rent it and stay there and not maintain it, but keep it up, not like a carpenter would. But not also destroy it by having a lot of, when you have children and pets and so on. So, but I think we're not asking this time around to have that type of person. It's not the first time I think we were asking that had to be that person, but now we're not saying that. Now we just want to rent it. And if you on that addendum page, if you want to add these are things you could do, then the committee to decide on who they're going to award the rental to, that would play into the decision, right? I think in that, I'm just thinking, Brett, the number you're coming up with is I think it's on the high side. It may be, you might be right, it might be similar to other places. I would almost want to compromise and say I would not want the utilities and the rent combined to be over $2,000. So working backwards, if we think that the utilities would be between 500 and 600, and I would say I would put the rent at 1,400 and have it come out to closer to 2,000 for the year. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, utilities is a totally separate issue from rent. And if you look at the listings in the area, the cheapest available, there's really nothing in North Stonington right now on the market, but the cheapest in the area right now is in Pawcatuck for a one bed, 1 bath, 500 square foot apartment for 900. The cheapest house, complete house for rent right now. Actually, there's not many, but in Pawcatuck, you have a $1,450 for a 2-bed, 1 bath, 1,000 square foot apartment in a home. The cheapest home right now for a 3-bed, now we go to Stonington, that pops up, is 3,300. Now I know those are different, but I think we shouldn't put it at the bottom of the barrel for our rent. And also we want someone that's going to maintain the property and take care of it. I just think that if we're so low, it doesn't do the town any justice.
No, I agree with you. I don't believe being so low makes sense either. But I also think that I don't want to price it out of market where we don't rent it. The idea is to rent this house and not have it stay vacant. So if we get no takers at 16 or 1650, whatever the number you used.
Yeah, I think they're out there. I think when you look at the market where it is, there's just, we're not trying to price gouge. I think if we were actually pricing it for the market, we'd be well above 2 on it. But if we want to be low on it, I think 16 is the minimum where we should be on it. It just, we have to look at it as an asset for our town, but you want someone that's going to not just take it because it's the cheapest property around either.
No, I understand. And I don't have a background in real estate. And I did not do the research you've done. So I'll acquiesce and say that I appreciate you doing that research, and I will agree to agree.
We can We can try and see what we get.
So give us, what's the number, Brett, that you are?
I mean, I originally said 1650, but if 16 feels better,
I'm
then I'm on board with
agreeable to
that.
16.
All right, so
I mean, it's definitely not your traditional house. It's rustic.
Right.
all right, is there anything else on here on that you'd like to change in the rental application? Hold on one second.
I don't have a question on here. I just want to be clear on what the rental includes. Are we including the carriage house as originally discussed?
What I'd like to do in the carriage house is include half the carriage house. Not the upstairs at all, because the Historic Society uses the second floor and there's furniture up there. But I would like to, just my thought is to include the lower half, the lower half. And the reason I say half is because I think the Ewart Farm committee would like to keep some space in there, whether they do something with somewhere down the road with a stage or with kayaks, or I just would, I think there's plenty of room on the first
I
level.
think I get that, but that makes it, that murkies water a little bit. So if we're putting in anything in the lease where you need to give 24-hour notice if you're coming on the actual
All right,
property
so-
of that,
So,
I just,
so what would you agree to if we rented the first floor of the carriage house as part of the rental and not the second floor? Second floor has a separate door, separate key anyway, so.
right. As long as we're clear on, I think you'd have to be clear to the tenants of when somebody from the other organization will come, because then, okay, where's the parking for those other people that are using upstairs?
Well, they don't really use it. They just store stuff up there. So I would say most like somebody that came from Liz Haddad's house, when they collect furniture from people that pass and give it to the town. So I would say we can arrange with the Historic Society that they would have to give notice, 24-hour notice or 48-hour notice before they came on the property.
I
But
think
there's
you
no one stays there and hangs out there.
I think you can also make it clear it is part of a public area. So you would tell anyone that would be accessing the second floor that they cannot park in any of the driveway spaces for the rental and designate that as
Right.
private property. And then if they're coming to use it, they would have to park in any of the other designated areas.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think, Christine, when I first moved here, and that was with people living there, I think there were signs up that said private residents, please respect private residents or something like that.
Yeah, I think
So-
there,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
you're right.
should
There
do
was
something
something
along
like
And
that.
I would think we should put those signs back up, maybe at the edge of the property, and then I think there was one actually on the house, please respect private residents, so.
I'm comfortable with that if it's declared and, because I think the first floor is needed for someone that lives there for any kind of outdoor storage of anything.
But there's not room for a car in there.
No.
Not really. No, but there's driveway in the front and there's driveways in the back.
And it's in good condition that nothing would fall down.
No,
I mean,
it's okay. Yeah. But it could be used for storage. The building could be used for storage, right? We do have doors that go in there. Yeah, the
Yeah.
door that has the lock on it is.
And I'm sure if the hinges are messed up, things like that, those are all things we should fix before.
And we get, yeah, I got Donnie go look at those too. And so we can have the highway department look at that too and try to get that fixed. I want to make sure that we get certain things fixed before anyone moved in. Like I said, the bulkhead needs to be fixed. Some of the work on the outside, like the floorboards to be secured. As far as the windows go, we could do that in the fall or late or summer, early fall. And as far as that beam goes, we could do that during the summer too. That's all outside work, so. No, there will be. We already bought it. Yeah, it's already been purchased. It has not been put in place yet, but it's there. Yeah, thanks. So you had a question, didn't you?
Are you talking 1600 now or 1650?
We haven't voted on it yet.
And are you talking about that? Are you thinking things that have to go around with this
I think the consensus right now, we haven't voted yet, but it'd be the whole first floor would be able to be used by the tenant and the second floor would be used by the Historic Society with a notice given before they came on the property. Any other questions?
Are we looking for a security deposit as well?
Yeah, I think that, I'm not sure if
Is
that's
that
on there,
laid
but
out?
typically we would do that.
Okay.
But this is an application. It's not a lease agreement. I think that's the standard that usually you have security deposit, at least like 1 month's rent, I believe, but again, we can talk about that as part of the lease agreement, but this is just strictly an application.
Right, but it's questions that people ask, so they know when they're going into the lease, if they're applying for it, if they're applying to live there, they want to know what they're gonna have to come up with to start. So if we can address that before we put those applications out.
So
I mean,
that's
typically
fine.
it's 1 month.
So we can just address that now, can't we? So
Yeah.
why don't we say that I would take a motion to talk about $1,600, the first floor of the carriage house and a 1 month rent security deposit. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, so I want to take a motion.
Make a motion that we put out the rental applications with a lease of $1,600 a month with a security deposit in the amount of $1,600. And that has to be held in an interest-bearing account
And the first floor of the carriage house goes with it.
in the first floor of the carriage house, ground level. Yeah.
And we'll add the addendum page to it also. Okay.
I second.
Okay, so we have a
So-
motion.
During your discussion, when would you like to release this application? How long do you want the application period to be? Do you want to have an open house time period where we ask members of the Hewitt Farm to allow people in to see it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
2 weeks, no, yes. No, so, yeah, I would say, I'd like to get, we want to have somebody in there by June 1st. That's my thought. I think it makes sense to have an open house so we can, people look at it, people that are want to rent it, not open house, everyone in the town can look at it, but I'm sure if it's open, it's open. But, yeah, we should have an open house on a weekend day. I don't mind being there for that and have someone from the Hewitt Farm be there also if they like either need or add or somebody. That would make sense. Give tours of the house, tours of the ground. Talk about a little bit more about what comes with the rental, as far as what the things we just spoke about. Talk about a timeline of when certain things are going to be fixed, when work is going to be done. Yeah, so I think if we got this out by May 1st, at the latest, what's now?
I think why can't we get it out? Like,
Tomorrow.
yeah, by the end of the week.
Get out
And
as
give
soon
it
as
2
as soon as we can get it ready to go, we can get
Okay.
it out then.
So do you want to have it post on April 20th and close on May 6th? So that gives it about 2.5 weeks.
When are we gonna have open house? That's the question.
Yeah,
mean, We've
I-
got, there's a lot going on between now and then, but have it done before Mother's Day, is that what you're saying? Mother's Day weekend?
I'm just throwing out a 2 weeks, but I like to close things on Fridays. So
yeah. So,
personal preference.
yeah, or post it. Yeah, it doesn't matter when I was gonna say just start it Friday, but it doesn't matter. As long as you have if you have that end date, so what's the difference of 2.5 weeks? And then what you schedule an open house somewhere in there for applicants that want to look at it.
So we can talk with Hewitt Farm and see if it would be, I think the weekend of the 30th and the 1st would probably be the ideal time. So people have time to get applications
Yeah.
in.
Or is that, I like that idea, but also it makes it a little uncomfortable. I think if you have a bunch of people that are going for the same property all there at the same time.
When we posted the rental in 2020, we did a video tour of the house. So we
Mhm.
can have that available on the website if people want that. I just feel people may want to come and measure and.
Oh, no, I agree. I just wonder if it should, so if somebody wants to come look at it on Thursday, if there's,
What are you saying?
because it's hard to get, people's schedules are crazy. So it,
I
if
mean,
somebody's
it's-
interested, it's hard to say, no, you can't
And
look
and
at
who's
it
gonna
until
give the
this
tour?
date.
Who's gonna meet them? And is that gonna be you?
It's no
I
different
mean, we could all
from,
take turns if need be. I don't mind
but
helping.
it's no different from an open house. When you're going looking at prospective people buying a house, you're going to have 20, 30 people walking through the same house that are all looking to put competitive bids in. So I don't
Right.
really see a conflict.
I think
From
because
that.
we don't have a realtor that can handle it, I am in favor of an open house. I just don't know if 2.5 weeks is enough time to get the word out that it's there, that it's available.
I think in this market it is,
Yeah.
but
If you wanted to do the open house on the weekend of the 30th and the 1st, I mean, I could do it on the Sunday, not the 30th, but I could do it on the Sunday, the 1st. So we could even do it 2 days, maybe.
Hmm.
So maybe pick a time. Would you say like a 3-hour window is enough time?
I think
Like-
most open houses are 2 hours,
Yeah.
one
Would
to
you
three.
Like
Right.
a 10 to 2 or a 12 to 2? A 10 to 12 or 12 to 2?
I would pick one weekend day and one like weeknight day. Like when you get out of work at 4 to 6 or something, be there one day. And I don't mind being there one day if you can't make it either.
I can't do the 30th, but I could do the Sunday or maybe
So what if we did Friday night, the 29th, and then we did Sunday, the 1st?
that would work. So did you say, oh, you don't want to go when it's too dark, so would you say
Wait, which
5 to
days were you
7?
saying?
29th and 30th?
Friday, the 29th.
Really think we're gonna get people on a Friday night?
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I would do like,
I don't think we're.
I'm
gonna-
also not going to be the one doing it. So you guys tell me what you want to do.
My busy social life might not allow it.
what do we, I'm just looking at the meeting schedule now. Hold on.
I mean, Brett, if you're available on Thursday, the 28th, we could set it at the 28th.
Yeah, I should be,
I'm not available the 28th or the 30th.
I can
That's why
do the
said Brett.
27th.
Board of Finance meeting?
Or actually, are
There's a Board
we,
of Ed meeting that
Board
day.
of Ed.
are we talking about canceling our Tuesday meeting?
We're not sure.
Not sure yet.
Because I was gonna say I can do it that day. So if you post it on this week and then it gives someone people to look at it early and people to look at it later, and then we're closing it a week later, it gives,
I mean, we can get the Hewitt Farm Committee members to also
yeah,
help out as
Mhm.
well.
yeah. So if that works, I can do it either that Tuesday or Wednesday night. I don't mind.
And I could do Sunday the 1st. We skip Saturday, just go right to Sunday, which most people are off on a Sunday.
All right. So we're going to say the 27th so that in case we do have a meeting, we don't have to juggle.
Okay.
Because I want to have all this information when we post it tomorrow.
And that would be what, 5 to 7?
Yeah, 5 to 7.
And
When
I
do we
would say
do-
And that is Board of Ed.
it is Board of Ed.
All right.
And then I'd say I'll do May 1st from 10 to 1,
10 to
I
12.
can,
Okay.
so are we talking about Saturday and Sunday?
or
All
No.
just Sunday.
right,
no
then I
Saturday.
can do Sunday with you.
All right, so we'll do a May 1st, 10 to 1, and April 27th from 5 to 7. So Brett will do that, and myself and Nicole will do the Sunday. If you want me to get someone like Ed
I
or
can reach out
Anita,
to Ed for
Yeah, I
the
think we should.
Tuesday, yep.
okay.
And the last time we posted it, we did have a rough drawing from the assessor that we posted that has the dimensions and the layout. So I would like
Oh,
to
that's
also
perfect.
include that in the
Okay.
posting.
All right.
And do you want me to post this in the newspaper? A small legal ad?
Sure. Okay, so does that cover it? So when are we getting this out? As soon as we're able
What
to?
did we, I'm sorry, the first, Bob, what are we doing? 10 to 1?
10 to 1.
All right, do we need to vote now?
Yes. So we're going to vote on, we have a motion already on what is included. And now we just added the dates being if you want to amend your motion for the dates, Brett, which would be the 27th, April 27th from 5 to 7 and May 1st from 10 to 1
As amended.
as amended. Perfect. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Very good. Any questions? Yes, Marilyn?
On what date is the planning notified?
We would need to review applications prior. If there are any applications that are non-residential, planning and zoning would need to look at it, or at least the PDZO. So their next meeting would be May 10th, I think we said earlier. So no earlier than May 10th.
Well, it would
Do
be
we have
nice
to-
that. go ahead.
Do we have to vote on the resident,
Yes.
the applicant?
Yeah, I think it's best with the selectmen, but we can take, we can have a, if you want, we can have a board, we can put together a group between selectmen and you would farm committee members to be like the overseeing committee and then, but ultimately the decision lies with the selectmen.
So no earlier than the 10th. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
I would say,
Yeah.
honestly, you may need to have a special meeting on the 17th just to talk about this because the 6th to the 10th really doesn't give you enough time to
I
review.
would like to get someone in there by mid-month, so if we do award it, they have a couple of weeks to, and we can even allow to have them start moving things in maybe ahead of time. Okay.
You
Anything
have
else?
2 online hands?
Sure.
We should put in renters insurance requirements too, right?
We
That'll,
can.
that'll all be in the lease.
It'll be in the lease, right? Okay. we have people
Brian
on-
Rathbun, go ahead.
Brian?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about whether the people are gonna be allowed to have animals. Like with the carriage house, and might wanna bring a horse in or a cat or a couple of dogs or fish or, and then is it gonna be for smokers and non-smokers?
All right, so as far as the animals go, with the request from the Ewart Farm Committee, they suggested one pet less than 80 pounds, I believe, so like a dog.
But Brian, I think that's a good point about the smoking. I didn't think about that, but we should put a non-smoking requirement in there. If you ask me.
Okay,
But
just
we're
thought
not
I'd bring it
gonna
up
allow-
because I didn't hear about it, and I know when I used to have a place I rented, one of the first questions they asked.
Good, that's good information, Brian, thank you.
All right.
Who else is up there? I can't see that.
Kathy White.
Kathy?
Hi, this is Robert White again. Hey, I was just wondering on the utility bill for the place, the 400 a month is, that you said that you spent this winter on oil. Was that keeping the heat down low at say 50 degrees or was it keeping it at 65, 68 degrees?
No, the heat was kept probably around 55, Robert, and Christine said it was closer to $600, not 400.
600, okay. And if it's gonna be used for something else besides resident, a residence, are you gonna require that the heat stay on during the winter so you don't have someone that rents it and they, drain the water and stuff and winterize it and then leave the place sitting all winter with no heat on?
No, it's a good point. I think when we decide on who is going to rent it, then we'll have to come up with a lease agreement that fits that use, whether it be residential or non-residential, but it's a good point.
Okay, and the other thing I have is, I know you had talked about 1,400 a month at first, and now you've come up with 1,650, or 16, whatever it was. But my other question was if someone comes in and rents it for 1,600 a month and they put $300 worth of work into it that month of paint and, different things, is that gonna be taken off of the rent
No.
when you're asking them to do work to it? Or is it gonna be 1,650 and or 1,600 and you ask them to do work and not take it off of the monthly?
So unlike the last time this was tried a couple of years ago, we're not asking people to come in and do work. We're just asking people to rent it out. Now, when they've put the application in with the addendum and they say there's things that they would do, that's great. That might endear them more to we'll call it the rental committee. But no, they're not going to get paid or discounted off their rent by doing that because we're not asking that.
Okay, I know it was discussed. I thought you were, my
Yeah, it was-
bad.
No, it was discussed when they tried it a couple of years ago and they got very little activity as far as possible renters.
Right. I think we're better off doing it ourselves, just my own personal opinion, but, okay, that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Anybody else online?
Nope, that's it. My recommendation is that we review a draft rental agreement at the meeting on May 10th so that you know what you're gonna go into for the meeting on the 17th.
Yeah, it's perfect. Thanks. Okay, if nothing else, let's talk about the furniture sale at the school. We voted on this and we approved this last meeting. Oh, I'm sorry.
talking about running the ad, if I am.
Marilyn, you need to use a mic. I'm sorry. She's gonna use it.
My understanding is that the ad would be running, or however you're publicizing it, from the 20th of April to May, what is it, 4th, 5th? Okay. And you're going to not be talking about it after that until the 17th to make a decision?
Well,
Or am I
It sounds to
confused?
me that once the applicants all come in, then we'll have to have that, if we put together a rental committee, which I assume would make sense with some selectmen and some farm committee people to look at and review all the ads, I mean, all the applications, and then that group can make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. So yeah, that would take a little bit of time to do that. No more than maybe a week to 10 days at the most.
Okay, so if the ad stops running on the 5th, you're
So
going to wait until the 17th
What
to
did, no, what does,
So we're going to accept applications between April 20th and May 6th.
Mhm.
We're going to run an ad early in that says the application deadline, and we'll have it on our website and various social media. We'll have the open houses on the 27th and the 1st of May. And then the selectmen have a regular meeting scheduled on May 10th, and we don't think that's enough time. So between May 6th and a potential special meeting on May 17th, the people that need to review the applications will review the applications, and then a recommendation will be made on May 17th for who the tenant will be.
sounds good to me.
Okay, so that changes.
I think we should do it as the three of us as the full board and maybe one or two from the Hewitt committee and just do it that way. So instead of meeting and then recommending to us, if we're all there and we're talking about
That'd be
rent
fine.
agreement, it's lease, we can do it in, actually
So
executive session on that.
if we're going to, if it's going to be all two or more of us, then we have to call it as a meeting. As we're sitting down reviewing the applications, it's a Board of Selectmen meeting.
But I think we can do it under executive session. Discussion, lease negotiations. Yeah.
Just if we're talking about the applicants themselves, yes, but not as far as the lease, but as far as the applicants, we could.
And you're still talking June 1st to move in.
I would love to have someone there by June 1st.
So would someone love to.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Bob, on that, do you think we'd be able to get the outside renovations done of that porch by then?
I don't think so. Not with the time it takes to get carpenters and contractors, and now we can get.
Can we start getting that lined up now?
Yeah, we could. I mean, there's money in the budget to get that done for this year's budget, so we can get that done. I've already started lining up for the floors. Bob Dunn, the Hewitt Farm Company, is going to do that for us. He thinks he might even be able to do the work outside. If he can do it, then we might be able to get done before. But it's more important to get the bulkhead done than it is to get the beam. The beam's not going to fall, but the bulkhead has to be secured. So
Yeah, we should not move forward on any of those repairs. We can fix the bulkhead, but we should not move forward on any repairs until we get the plans approved by the State Historic Preservation Office and we get reimbursed on the grant.
agree.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on your farm? Okay, if not, you'll see that the yard sale date has been changed. Originally, it was going to be this coming Saturday, the 23rd. We did mention that might not be great. Might not be the greatest thing since we have school vacation week and a lot of people travel. But then and we're going to do it anyway. But then we found out that they were moving the server this week for the schools from that end of the building to that end of the building. And they're going to be all over the place, and did make sense to have people coming through the building. So Saturday, May 14th is the new date from 8 to 12. I'm going to get vests from Donnie that we have already. Orange just that the people that are working the rooms can wear, so we know who those people are. So wear something that matches orange if you want to coordinate, Nicole. And then we'll have hopefully 4 or 5, 6 workers. I'm going to try to get some people from Board of Finance if they would help out. I think Christine, you're going to work. I know Ivana can't now, but you and we'll try to get you some help maybe on the cashier's table. And we'll talk about how the whole thing's going to work. Gives us a little more time to set up like the route of how cars will go, where we'll park them. We might need somebody to actually park cars, tell them where they can park. I'll have some signage made. on general parking entrance and then pick up at the, near the greenhouse. So hope it all goes smooth. That gives us more time too, to also coordinate. I know you, Nicole, you said we want to come maybe a week or so early and move some stuff, get some stuff consolidated, which makes sense and gives the school more time to get rid of some of their stuff. I know the tenant that's looking to come into the first floor. I told her we could put some furniture away for her. It's still town furniture, but she could use it. So I'll give her a chance to do that before we start selling the stuff off. So, okay. So we voted on this. I just think we should vote on to move the date. So I will motion that we move this yard sale date to May 14th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
So move.
Okay, any other discussion? If none, all those in favor of moving the date to May 14th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's done. Number 7, No Stow Fest October Halloween Parade request by Jen Strunk. Yes, please.
You gotta click it once.
There we go. Okay, so I primarily wanted to get a date on the calendar for the parade and also talk to you guys a little bit about what I would like to have happen this year. I'm looking at October 21st. It's a Friday. Are there any conflicts or reasons that you think that's not a good day?
What was that date again?
October 21st.
Do you know what the date is of, crazy question, when is Columbus Day? Is it the week before that?
That's the weekend of like the 9th and the 10th.
Okay, so it's the 9th and the 10th is Columbus Day weekend?
It's somewhere in there. I just,
No, I'm gonna say, because I'm out of, not that it matters.
It's the
I'm-
10th.
Huh?
It's the 10th.
Is
It's
what?
Columbus Day.
Okay, so the 17th is the following Monday and you're the 21st, perfect. That works good for me.
so what I'm shooting for is if this becomes an annual thing, I would like it to be the third Friday in October, always.
What day was it last year?
It was a Friday.
It was a Friday?
Mhm.
And there obviously was no problem with people getting out of work on time and getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear any
yeah,
issues.
I didn't.
I think some
didn't
people, you
appear to
know,
be.
if they were participating, they left work
Yeah.
early or took the day off. But at least for people who came to watch, it seemed like it was a good day. The only slight conflict that we ran into was the school was busy and we lined up there. So, you know, there was a little bit of traffic. I'm not sure we would do that again this year, but as far as, you know, adults, it seemed like it was fine.
So that's the parade you're talking about.
Yep, the Halloween one.
And what
When-
time does that kick off?
6:30. I need to double check the sunset time. I believe this past year, what did we say? Was it 6? Is that what we planned? And that was too early because it wasn't dark enough. I think 6:30.
When the PTO has their fall fest, do they normally do that on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday?
Usually it's
I
Friday.
think they did it on
It did
Friday.
not conflict last year. I
Okay.
believe they were the following. They're actually closer to Halloween.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to be a little bit earlier is because there's so much going on. I didn't want to compete with, you know, too many other events.
Sounds good to
So,
me.
okay, cool. So I'll run with that. And this year, what I would like to do is expand the parade, not necessarily the parade itself, but I would like to essentially have a whole festival beforehand. No Stow Fest. I know that's what is on the agenda. That hasn't happened since 2018. This past summer, I was invited in July to take that over, and it was supposed to happen in September. 2 months was not enough time to put on a proper festival. It couldn't happen. And with my work, I am too busy to plan to large scale town events, the parade and No Stow Fest. So essentially I want to take what No Stow Fest was with the live music and the food and just all the really fun activities, essentially rebrand it Halloween themed and have that before the parade. So that event would end with the parade coming through. That's my concept that I just wanted to throw out there tonight. Obviously, there's still a lot of planning and details to be worked out. So this is just the very first stages.
Okay, so are you looking for feedback, right?
I'm looking for feedback. Love it, hate it, things I need to know. I would love to start planning this. I just need to know, I guess, just open line of communication. What do you think?
I think if the weather's nice.
Yeah, right.
Because NoSoFest typically being in September, we had warmer weather, so
Sure.
people weren't bundled up too badly. And I know sometimes the Fall Fest get pretty cold on
Oh,
some of those evenings, so. But yeah, it seems like the falls are getting warmer and the springs are getting colder, so it might work out. But I don't think it's a bad idea at all to combine them. I think it's just become almost like a bigger event than NoSoFest was on its own.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of the name because that's what it was. And if you remember the history, that was a bringing back of the town together after the big divide after the first school referendum that passed by 3 votes, and the town was pretty split. And the group that came together, and people from both sides of that issue, for or against the school rebuilding project, got together and decided, how do we mend the town? And that's how that came about. So I would, I like if we could still try to incorporate the No Stow Fall Festival or No Stow something into it. I think it would, just so people can remember what that was all about.
Totally. I'm actually completely opinionless on the name. Other people are not. As I've talked to some people in town, there have been some strong opinions. The PTO feels strongly that they have Fall Fest, which I understand. They don't want another town event with the words Fall Fest because it creates confusion, right? And people reach out to the PTO and they say, is this your event? Did this get changed? What's happening? I heard from some other people that they like the idea of what I want to do, but that's not quote unquote No Stow Fest. And that's just different. So don't use the name. I really don't care what we call it. I just want to plan a party for the town, you know? But I do actually, I agree with you. You know, it's like a melding of the two, but I don't care what we call it.
I like the idea. I have to say the trunk or treat after the parade, the amount of people, it was unexpected how many people were there. Thank you for bringing extra candy so I can run to you and get some.
Right.
But I thought that was fantastic. So would that still happen after?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was actually what kind of made me realize that I would like to turn this into much more of a town event. I didn't know what to expect when we planned the parade and the trunk or treat after. And hundreds of kids, there were so many people. It was swamped and the feedback was great. And I would love to build on that.
So are you thinking the same location or potentially ending at the Grange or something like that?
So that needs to be worked out. I don't know if the building in a parking lot will still be standing come October. I need to talk to the Grange. This is just very preliminary.
Okay.
Another question, if you're doing the parade on Friday, you said, right?
Mhm.
And you want to do the festival prior, so the festival would start after working hours?
It would probably start maybe like 4:30. So I do understand that it would start slow and quiet.
I mean, versus like the original NoSoFest was obviously on a weekend day,
Right,
so it was more midday, I think.
right. So having it on a Friday is also for me and my work schedule as a wedding planner. I always have weddings on Saturdays in October, like always. I think there's also a lot of competing events. Every other town has a trunk or treat or a fall festival. So I wanted to try to avoid some of that. I was thinking, I have to have a rain date. I was thinking the following Sunday. I'm not opposed to a Saturday. I would just like to avoid it because, if I plan an event for the town, I want it to be a success. I don't want people who would come to be split between an event here, an event there,
Oh, makes sense. Good point. And I think that knowing you're involved, it's going to be a great event anyway, because I've never seen you do anything that wasn't great. But I just having an event in town, it just once again puts the town on the map. It brings the town together. Mostly if it's mostly done by people from North Stonington.
I 100% behind you. Give me my walkie-talkie. I'm fine.
You're plain landers.
Yep. I mean, I completely understand now, kind of hearing your explanation for not on a Saturday or a Sunday. I think timeline, it will be tight, but when I think about last year, people were up and down Main Street, and as we're getting set up, if you're thinking, even if 6:45, the parade started, that gives people a good, I think a good 2 hours out there in possibly colder weather is completely doable. So like a 4:30 start, as people start trickling in, and then I'm again 100% supportive.
Well, actually, now that you say that, it reminds me, if I were to keep the parade route the same as it was last year, the light parade is not going to roll through Main Street at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. It's going to be closer to 7:30 or 8.
Yeah.
So that's more time. So maybe, any Main Street festival type event starts at 5:30 or 6.
I think that's probably more doable for
Yeah.
families to get out there. And yeah, there for you for whatever you
Yeah.
need.
And I think you're right about a little later at that start time.
Yeah.
Just because I can tell you from years of, well, we did a lot with the PTO Fall Fest, and we always set up a table and food and all that stuff. It's hard to get people from work to there on a Friday. That was always the downfall, is trying to get
Yeah.
people there to be able to give them time to set up and get things moving. That would be my.
Did
only
you
take
happen
on
to
it.
time it from when you left to when you actually made it to Main Street?
I should have. I didn't. Does anyone remember what? Do you
I-
remember? Yeah, I don't. I was in La La Land.
And then the only other thing that I was going to say is I know that the PTO did a trunk and treat at the end of their festival, or at the same time. I think just to make sure that everybody knows exactly what the other person is doing, that we should probably just touch base with the
Oh, totally.
PTO.
So is there any opposition to me pursuing some live music or some food trucks? Anything I need to know? Permits I need to pull? Special insurance I need to get?
That's a Christine.
We should have a separate meeting, you and
Sounds
I.
great.
Okay, thanks. Good luck. Sounds great.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Okay, any questions on that topic? Are they online? Next would be the call for town meeting. As you know, we were hoping to have a town meeting coming up on May 2nd. We have the call in front of us this evening, as well as the sheet that we're going to be posting the budget numbers into the paper. So with that said, I'll read the call, and then we'll have a motion to send it to the meeting, and then we'll have discussion. And if there's any amendments, we'll make them at that time. So Town of North Stonington, Connecticut, warning is hereby given that the electors and those entitled to vote at a town meeting of the Town of North Stonington, that the annual town budget meeting shall be held at the following location on the date and time indicated for the purposes of transacting the business set forth below in a manner consistent with current state law for hybrid meetings. Electors are advised to check with the town website for required procedures regarding hybrid town meetings. Location, North Stonington Education Center, North Stonington Education Center Media Center, 298 Norwich Wesley Road, and via Zoom. The Zoom address is on there. Web ID 840-1112-8684, May 2nd, 2022, time 6 p.m. For the purpose of verifying registered voters, those wishing to attend the meeting online and vote online will need to pre-register through the link provided by 12 p.m. on May 2nd. Number one, shall the Town of North Stonington approve the estimates and recommendations by the Board of Finance with respect to the annual budget, including the general government operating budget of $5,319,361, redemption of debt $1,382,949, and capital $408,655 for fiscal year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, in the total amount of $7,110,965. Number two, shall the town of North Stonington approve the estimates and recommendations of the Board of Finance with respect to the annual budget of Board of Education budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, in the amount of $14,527,467. Number three, shall the town of North Stonington approve $1 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to replace lost public sector revenue, fund a portion of the demolition of the one-story wing of 298 Norwich Wesley Road. Four, shall the town of North Stonington approve an ordinance creating a municipal park and recreation capital and non-reoccurring expense fund and amend the existing ordinance, Recreation Commission Section 14-1C, and for the town clerk to be allowed to publish and abbreviate a version of the legal ad regarding the notice of passage for these ordinances. Copies of both are available on the town's website and at the town clerk's office. Notice of referendum. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen, pursuant to its authority under the Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-7, hereby removes the questions 1 and 2 to be considered at the May 2nd, 2022 annual town meeting cited in the prior resolution to a referendum to be held on May 16, 2022. The hours for voting at the said referendum shall be established by vote at the May 2nd, 2022 town meeting. Said hours are recommended by the Board of Selectmen to be from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Submitted by the Board of Selectmen, Brett Mastriani, Robert Carlson, Nicole Porter. That's the most public reading I've done in I don't know how long. Oh my God, it's like I went to school and read a book to the first graders.
Which is, you probably should, so now that you're.
I volunteered to do that, but because of the COVID activities in the first semester, we put it off. So I will address it again with the new superintendent. Yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Why do we have number 1 and number 2 when we then resolve to move it to a referendum? Does it have to be that way?
So the Board of Selectmen, when calling for a town meeting, if you are anticipating before we even go to the meeting that you definitely want to send any questions to a referendum vote, you would call for it in this official call. If you don't call for it and you intend on it to be voted on in the actual town meeting, then someone could motion to move it to a referendum rather than voting in the room. So typically we send the referendum budget, we send the budget numbers to referendum so that everyone in town has the opportunity to vote. So you could opt to send just those 2 questions. You could send all 4 questions. You could send no questions in advance to referendum.
Okay, so I would say, let's have a motion to send this to referendum as written. Then after it's seconded, we can take discussion, make amendments as needed, and we can vote to approve an amended town call. If not, we'll have to come back at a special meeting and do it at a different time.
Second.
Okay, so I guess I made the motion and Brett seconded it. Okay, open for discussion.
Okay, I have some questions or comments, I should say. I would actually like to get rid of the pre-register by 12 p.m. on May 2nd for people that are on Zoom. I called about 6 different town clerks and registrars in different towns that have virtual meetings. I printed out 2 here. But most don't have a cutoff. And I've said this before, most don't have a cutoff for people to register to a town meeting. They do it. So the 2 that I printed out, they ask people that are virtual to come at 6 to sign in at 6 o'clock. And the registrars or the town clerk is checking people in as they allow them into the Zoom room. There's another town that has a separate Zoom waiting area where their registrars go through and they check people in right there and then allow them in. And there's some towns that only check in during the vote process. I think by limiting it to 12 PM, first of all, I think it's technically a violation. I know our attorney doesn't think so, but it's a violation of people's rights in town. So our meetings are supposed to be open to the public. And when Zoom came around, we're supposed to stay as close to what a town meeting or a public meeting should be. So by limiting who can come in or that time limit, you're limiting people's ability to participate and vote. So I'd like to see that taken away. And if we are voting on certain things, then we open up or we ask people to come early to register through Zoom. It's not like we have 300 people coming in. We have 40, 50 maybe at the most, and that would be fantastic. We had that time of attendance.
What if the executive order doesn't go past April 30th?
What's that?
What if the executive order does not go past April 30th?
So if it doesn't go past April 30th, then maybe we shouldn't even have this in here and you just have it as a in-person meeting. So there's nothing in the law that stops us from putting it on Zoom and allowing people to ask questions. You just wouldn't, if this law doesn't get amended and changed, they just can't participate in voting in the meeting. But there's
Right.
nothing that stops us, even if this doesn't go through, to ever have any of our meetings not Zoomed where people can come in and ask questions. They just can't vote. on
No,
things.
agreed. And that's why we have the electors are advised to check with the town website for required procedures regarding hybrid town meetings, because they may be different at that time.
Right.
But so it's not so much that, it's just the time of the cutoff being at 12 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, I haven't found, and there might be one I missed, but I haven't found any towns that cut off people's attendance to meetings.
So Stonington had an all-in-person meeting. They didn't have a hybrid meeting.
Correct. Their last meeting was, I think, last week for their town meeting. It was all in person. They didn't have the hybrid option.
Do you have an opinion on this, Nicole?
Are the registrars usually here?
Yes, so the reason that we had done the pre-registration was this gave time for the registrars to verify that people were eligible voters. And then if they weren't, or if there was a question of their status, they had time to get back to them before the meeting so that people weren't denied their ability to attend the meeting and vote. That everyone has the option to come in person and vote. So they may, if we could do the cutoff time, yes, they would not have the ability to attend remotely, but they still could always come into the room to register. I had talked at my Connecticut Town and City Managers meeting when all of this started and told them that this was how we were handling it. And they preferred the method we were using to what they were doing, because they had a backlog of people that had to wait, sign on, show that they were a registered voter, show their license, and the registrars would validate. Our registrars do have to come to the meetings in person because they need to validate everyone that comes in the door. I think we could do it either way. My concern, if you go with a register, you said sign on prior to the meeting starting, if we're starting at 6 o'clock, if people are trying to leave work and get on to start the meeting promptly at 6, we may not be able to start at 6 because we won't be able to verify everyone.
So it has to be one of the two registrars, right? No other helper can verify.
The registrars.
So
have to-
I
even
believe
if
the
you
town
have-
clerk can.
So even if we do have the town clerk, you have two people here checking and verifying before people sit down, and then one person will have to be dedicated online. I don't think 6 o'clock is when we're starting at 6. I think they're gonna have to absolutely log in beforehand.
And-
Even if we're lucky and we have 15 people at home, that process for 15 people, they're not going to be able to, and they truly are not allowed in. Like I've been in Zoom meetings where you're out in the parking lot somewhere in this other room, and then you get allowed in. People are going to miss the beginning of the town meeting.
Well, the other thing is you can't vote on a phone. You have to have a laptop or a computer to vote. If you're watching the meeting on phone, you don't have the ability to vote. So we have to let people know that also. So even if they want to register, they can. My wife registered for a meeting, and then I got home, said I couldn't vote. I said, why? Because she was on her phone.
Yeah.
So-
And we did have and will continue to put that information on the website, but we have to pay for everything that goes into the legal ad. So we try to keep the words to a minimum, which are not a minimum in this.
I'm not
particular
against
law.
extending the time from 12 o'clock to maybe 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, but I
Is
don't
that
think, I
doable?
don't,
I'm agreeable to that.
I just don't
as
think
well.
going to the deadline of 6 is going to be too much chaos.
It's
trying-
no deadline. I think when you put a time limit in, you are violating the law. I don't care.
Not when we have an open meeting and they can come in
You-
person.
But you're limiting their participation.
No, we're
And if you're
not.
making it a hybrid, then they have the same rights as the person that comes in person. So this comes up because over the past few years, when we had hybrid meetings, people either were intending to come in person and then something happened, so they didn't register in time, so they weren't there. And I understand why your meeting might like it this way, because it's easier, right? You don't have to worry about the backlog, but it's not,
It's not easier, it's more efficient.
it's more efficient. You're right. But it's easier because it's more efficient, but you're violating people's rights by doing that. Like, the town meeting is the highest form of our government. There's no one higher than the legislative body, which is our town. And if we're cutting off when those people can register to come on a meeting, we're not listening to those.
So Brett, I
people.
disagree. And I'll tell you why. Because before hybrid, before COVID, all we had was in-person meetings. There was no such thing. People had to come to meetings. And we're saying to people, you can come to the meeting or you can go on hybrid. But if we said, come to the meeting or be on hybrid, but be registered by 4 o'clock, you're giving them a choice. You're not saying to them,
Then how come we're the only town that does it?
only town does what?
Puts a time limit. The only town.
Some
I
towns
looked it
just
up
do
today.
in person. They don't even do hybrid.
Right, but anyone that does a hybrid they don't have a time limit.
You printed out ones that agree with your scenario. How do I know there's not other towns that didn't do it that way?
I mean, you could do the research. I do the research on it. I'm just telling you, I think it's for especially our size town and our population. If we were in a city or we had super high attendance at all these meetings, it'd be one thing, but I don't foresee having a backlog. And if we have a backlog for 5-10 minutes so that our residents can participate in the meeting, then I think that's the right thing to do.
I don't think it's going to be just 5 or 10 minutes, though. That's my concern. I'm afraid we're going to have a pool of people out at home waiting to get in, and it's going to be 6:15, or, we're sitting here waiting for everybody to be able to be let in. I think they're going to be more upset if they're sitting there waiting and they've missed the beginning of the meeting. I mean,
If we're checking people in at the door and there's a line down the hallway, and we're checking people in as they come in, what's the difference?
because I think that if I'm coming to a town meeting that starts at 6 o'clock and I know I have to check in, I'm going to probably be here at 5:45 so I can be in line knowing that the meeting starts at 6. But if we don't have the cutoff end until 6 o'clock, and I know I can sit at home and log in at 6 o'clock, I'm just concerned that it's going to be a delay in getting them in, and we're going to have the same kind of situation. They're going to be upset that they've missed the beginning.
So all these towns give you a half hour. They say you should start logging at, so this was at, for a 7:31, they said start lining at 7. I think if anybody challenged this, we would be in trouble.
So I 2 questions. Are you suggesting that we both do pre-registration and during
Yeah,
the
I'm not
meeting
saying take
registration?
away pre-registration. I'm
And-
saying take away the time limit.
And then after the meeting starts, the town clerk is reading the call, taking the minutes, handling that. We have the 2 registrars who are checking people in as they come into the room. And then as we start moving through the meeting, they are still checking people in and then also collecting and counting ballots. So how will we then facilitate people that, just like people walk in the room late here, how will we facilitate people also signing in late to the meeting and verifying that they're registered voters?
You'd have to have someone to do that.
Who would that
And
be?
I mean, we have assistant registrars. They're there, but the town clerk is one that can do that.
She's,
The
she's
the
making
town
the
clerk
call.
has a very different duty during the meeting. She may be able to help things prior to what happens in the room, but as soon as she's in the room, she's setting up her duties. She reads the town
I can
call.
tell
she
you
takes the
before
minutes.
before you came to town, when we had a town meeting, and we did paper ballot then, before that, you would have to go up and it'd be the registrars and the town clerk checking your name off a list and giving you the paper ballot. So they did participate prior. I'm just saying, I think limiting people's access is wrong. And I think we also violate open meetings if we're allowing hybrid and we're cutting anyone off, even if they're not voting, they're actually supposed to be allowed into this meeting through hybrid.
So can we find out who?
It's only for voting
Wait,
purposes.
how would you verify then the people that are voting are registered voters and not like in the room, we can have a sectioned off portion where we let people sit and we know not to give them a ballot or not to count their hand. But online, how would you make sure that the people that are voting are the people that are eligible to vote?
You can have separate rooms that watch and participate. I'm just saying, so when I talk to different town clerks, like these are the things you get. A public meeting is a public meeting. Even if someone comes in here to vote, they can come in and sit here and listen to a public meeting. They can walk, they don't have to check in with the registrar. They can sit in this room and not be allowed to vote. That's
Yeah.
why prior, like you'd have to go up and the registrars would have to know who you are or check in every time because it's a public meeting. You're only allowed to vote if you're registered in the town to vote or you have property tax over 1,000.
So, I mean, I think we all agree, we don't want to exclude anybody. We need as many people here that night as possible. I'm just trying to operationalize how we're going to make it happen your way, what you're suggesting.
I'm
I'm just
just-
trying to figure out who else can be enlisted to help check in, who is legally able to check in and verify, and do we have the resources that are going to allow us to do that? And then maybe at 6 o'clock, at the stroke of 6 o'clock, that's it. If we put out and we advertise that it is suggested that by 5:30 you start logging in so that you can be there right for the very beginning, then that is the best case scenario. But at 6 o'clock when the meeting starts and the people that are here in roles that have to participate, I say that that's it. You're not in. And again, I think we need to figure out how we're going to get those resources to do it. I'm not opposed in any way.
No, but I think
I don't
according
want
to,
to turn anybody away.
according to Brett's scenario is you can have people wandering whether they come in person or online at any time and have to register them to make it fair for everyone. And I disagree.
I think that does open us up for a liability of not verifying who is voting during.
I think you have
So-
to go with either you stop the time at a certain time and make it very well known that if you have not pre-registered by X time, you must come in person if you wish to have a vote, or you keep it open all the way through. I don't think that you can then close it at 6 o'clock or any time because then you are restricting their access.
Right. So if you look at, Deep River, for instance, was one I printed out. When they vote, their voting procedure is once it's time to vote, the ballot will be placed on the screen for everyone to see. To place your vote, you enter the chat with registrars only. So the registrars have their own chat. Please take use of the drop-down menu to ensure that you're chatting directly with the registrars and not with everyone. And that's how they vote, is through, they send it to the registrars. That way, anybody that's there can listen to the meeting and participate, ask questions. But to vote, they vote through the registrar.
So it sounds like we're gonna have to have a training session before the town meeting.
You might, but it's really not that difficult.
And
when
then
you
if,
read
and
through
if the
these.
executive order doesn't go past April 30th, it's all a moot point.
Right. So then the other option is you have an in-person meeting and we stream it and we allow questions from from Zoom if you want. They just can't vote. Because we don't know if they're going to be allowed to vote after April 30th. I just think when we limit people's participation, it's just not
No, I mean, I
the
think,
right.
I think we all agree with you. We're just having a hard time figuring out before May 2nd, how we're gonna make it work.
And I don't think we're limiting because we're giving options. The option is to come in person or go online. So to put an end time on registration, I don't
But
think
see,
it's limiting.
The point you're missing with the executive order or with this order is the people on hybrid have the exact same rights as the people that attend in person. So by you saying they have the option to come, they do. But since we're making it hybrid, people at home that are registered voters have the same rights as people that are attending in person. So you can't say, that's like saying, hey, if you're coming to our town meeting in person, you have to be here by 4 o'clock. So I can check your ID. You can come back at night, but I want to make sure it's you before you come. It's
That's not quite the same, but.
pretty simple.
All right.
I just think then maybe we should just have it in person with hybrid streaming and not allow online votes.
Then you just limited a lot of people, didn't you?
But we don't know if the law is going to change.
So I think because we've done many of the hybrid meetings where they can attend online and vote, you're going to have more confusion and more people that feel their rights were taken away because in the past they've been able to attend online and
And I've
vote.
fought against this since you guys put time limits on it 2 years ago.
No, I'm just saying, if we say you have to be in the room to vote, but we're going to stream it
Okay.
and you can comment through the streaming, I think in that way, people are going to not necessarily read that the rules have changed and sign online and expect to be able to vote
Right.
because that's what's happened at the last 6 town meetings.
So are you saying you would prefer just have it in person compared to stream and?
I would say if we're gonna go in person to vote, we would have it in person and we can stream it on YouTube, but not have it as an interactive Zoom
Gotcha.
meeting.
Okay.
So that there's absolutely no confusion and no one says, I didn't get to vote, my voice was taken away.
That's valid.
We've done this for 2 years now. I have concern about changing it. You're excluding a whole group of people that with kids, who, whatever, you're excluding a whole bunch of people that would normally log online to participate. And I think that 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock is better than just live streaming it and not having people be able to vote and participate. I think we've set for better or for worse, and everybody did the best they could during COVID and with the executive orders, but for better or for worse, people are used to it being this way. And I'm concerned in this very important town meeting, changing things now could potentially cause confusion, and we do not need another reason for people to be upset that they were not heard.
Right. So then another option, and it would just simplify things a little bit, is then every question on here, we send a referendum. So then there is no real voting. There's you have to move the question to referendum, but other than that, there's no real voting on any items.
That makes sense. And I would agree with that.
I think that's
Just that way we take
great
the whole
compromise.
the voting piece completely out
so
Right.
educate the public at the referendum, but
at the
at
town
the town
meeting.
meeting, but have all of the questions be, is there anything time-wise that is, and there's no additional money tied up with
No,
having 4 questions in the referendum versus the 2?
no, it would just change what's on the ballot, but it's not like a legal ad. We don't have to pay per word. So thankfully.
Frankly, we may get a better outcome with the other 2 if people are reading the
Right.
question in the moment and they're all going out to vote for the budget.
I agree. I think the downside to that, the only downside that I can see is we will need to have to educate more. We will have to educate the public that doesn't attend the town meeting on especially the last 2 questions.
I don't know how you would do
And that's-
that because you can't sway the vote.
You can't sway the vote, but you can explain it. So you can have a booth, information booth set out outside town hall. We've done it before. That was town hall, in the parking lot, to just explain what it is. So if people have questions, okay, the $1 million for demo, what is that? You can explain exactly what it is so they
So
understand
is
it.
that what the town meetings for?
No, exactly. But how many people come to the town meeting compared to how many people vote at
I'd be
referendum?
nervous to have an information booth outside and not have someone accuse us of trying to sway the vote one way or the other.
I don't think that's
I
happened
think,
in the
I
past.
think we should just put the four questions on the referendum and have it succeed or not succeed. But I think it's a good thing to get rid of all the voting controversy the night of the town meeting. And we don't have to have anybody pre-register. And then, and that'll be it. And then I don't think the registrars even have to come to the town meeting at that point, then, correct?
Yeah. Well, technically, we do have to move it, but it would only take
So number 4 may be confusing.
That's gonna
for
be
people.
very
I'm
confusing.
concerned that that is going to be confusing. An information booth outside of town hall, like for what, like the entire 12 hours answering questions, like how do we
I've done
man
it.
that? How do we? And number 3 concerns me. This is an incredibly critical topic that we need to help the public understand that this is an appropriate and legal use of those ARPA funds to take the one-story wing down.
I think that we can design something for the packet that has directly from the treasury, the approved use. One of the approved uses for rescue plan funds is to replace lost public sector revenue. Those funds can then be used for these government services.
But where are you? Who are you giving that to
So
and when?
we have a packet available for anyone in town. We post it on the website. We have copies at the town hall. We put copies at the library and anywhere else that will allow us to do so. And that has the full budget in it and then any meeting materials. So we would have the draft ordinance change information in there. So I think for the question 3, I think we could put factual information of the guidance from Treasury, how we're using these funds, and I don't know that I possibly put something about the community conversation, the feedback, but probably not. Just
Yeah, I
these are
think
the
more
allowable things,
confusing.
just all facts.
And we could talk about having a table out front. And as long as you're not using funds to sway the vote, like that's what it comes down to. You can't use funds to sway a vote. But you can talk about the facts of what it is. If someone says, well, what does that do? You can explain that to them. We did it.
Can you as selectmen do that? Or is it just members of the public? Because I know people can campaign and that's completely legal. But as the selectmen, how does that work?
I can look into it, but I know during prior school votes on the school project, members from the school building committee were at the table explaining, they weren't swaying it, they were going over what the plan was. That's it. They're not saying, hey, vote for this. It's questions about it. What always killed me at these things where people would come ask those questions after they already voted. And you're just like, please ask before you go in and vote.
So I think we have 2 options. The options are to go the original route we're going to go and possibly change the registration time. And the second option is to put all 4 questions on the ballot. I think I think there's positives and negatives with both.
Are there any public comments on that part? I'd love to hear any public comments.
Is there anybody online? No. So we're kind of at an impasse because,
Oh, Brian Rathburn raised his hand.
okay. Brian Rathman, go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I don't see why you can't put them all 4 on the referendum, so we can all vote at the end. And I think it's a great idea just to have information at the town meeting. And if that'll give people time to, if they got a question about it, that give them time to call or talk to somebody about it that's aware of it. You know, they might call the selectmen, you guys' phones might ring off the hook. I don't know. But I think that's the fairest way to do it. And you don't have to have anybody at a town meeting registering everybody in, you know. I think that's the wise way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else? Nobody online? Okay, so we have a decision. I think it's either to go to a town meeting, have some of the questions on the call, of the meeting, and some on the move to referendum and register our voters at the meeting, or put all four on the referendum as was just suggested by Brian. I'm leaning towards putting all four questions on the referendum. I think that way we get, whether it fails or doesn't, there's more people that have a voice. We'll have a lot more people at a referendum than we will at a town meeting. It's our job to get the information out or to answer the questions as needed. I think if we did, and I think if we do a good job at the town meeting explaining it, then that word will travel. Well, that's my opinion. So I make a motion, unless you have any other changes to this,
Can I-
Brett?
I just, quick question, and I'm hesitant to say this even as I am going to speak it, but I don't know if there's anything that we can do on, and maybe we can't, on the town web pages, any of the social media pages for the town, as far as educating people on 3 and 4. I just, 3, I'm not as concerned about. 4, I think can be very confusing to people. We don't have to decide right now, but I don't know if there's, at the very, very least, on the social media pages, we need to encourage the participation in the town meeting so that people can be informed about what's going to be at the referendum.
I agree. If we can come up with something, it'd be
Yeah.
great. I do think 4 is for anybody that didn't hear anything about
Yeah.
it, doesn't understand that it's used for them to be able to raise their own funds through
Yeah.
donations. Like, there's nothing in there that says that. So people might just say, oh, we're starting another
Another non-recurring,
Fund.
yeah.
for a group.
All right. I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
All right, so, you have something to say, Christine?
I think I need to wait for you to say what you're going to say, and then I will ask my clarifying questions. Go
All
ahead.
right, so I am going to make a motion that when we get to the notice of referendum on the bottom of this page, we change it to hereby removes the questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the May 2nd, 2022 annual town meeting. And I will send all 4 to referendum. And I would say that we eliminate the lines up at the top paragraph where it talks about hybrid meetings and registration times.
I second that.
So can I just eliminate 1 and 2 and just have it say the questions?
Yeah.
Sure. You could do that. I will amend my motion.
And then, so you wanted to remove in a manner consistent with current state law for hybrid meetings, electors are advised, blah, blah, blah. And then would it still say that it is location here and via Zoom?
Yeah, because I think we should still have the meeting as a hybrid meeting. It just will be there'll be nothing to vote on except for sending it to referendum. We have to vote on that, correct?
Yes.
So-
And going back to when we were able to just do voice votes, we don't need exact counts, correct? When we do
Right.
it that way.
Majority.
It's been a long time.
So who votes? The Board of Selectmen vote at the town
the
meeting? to
town.
No,
send it
town
to
votes.
referendum?
Right.
So if there is voting period, do you not have to check?
If you're doing a voice vote and it's just by majority, I don't think we need to get caught up in the exact counts.
But we would not have to have a registrar checking to make sure.
The
are-
registrar should be here just in case there was an issue.
But now we're right back to the same situation of if we're voting to send it to referendum, we've not verified anybody online.
Right. So the 2 towns that were having their meetings, one was actually town meeting today and one they already had. They don't check anybody in for the town meeting because they're just moving it to,
If we think
To
that
Are they a
referendum.
chartered town?
if we think that
I
that's
didn't
legal.
check on all the, whether they're chartered or not. Because you would have to, if there was a big issue, then you'd have to go one by one.
If it's a voice count, that's what we're gonna do first, correct? On a paper ballot. I think we just bring the registrars in case there's an issue, but I think we don't have to pre-register. It's just to send them to referendum or not, correct? And can we do all four?
It is, but you're gonna have, say we have 30 people in the room and 60 people online. I know it's highly unlikely, but it could happen. We've had many times where we have more people online than in the room. So I think at that point, if it was called into question as far as having to distribute ballots, virtual or real, then we would need to kind of pause the meeting and verify that everybody online is a North Huntington registered voter.
If we're only going to vote to send to referendum or not, then why don't we can just institute a cutoff time? I know we're back to where we began, right? But would you agree with that?
What was that? I'm sorry.
If we're only voting whether we're gonna send the questions to referendum or not, that's the only voting. We're not voting to approve. Would you then agree with a cutoff time for registration? But maybe if we increase it to 4 o'clock or 5
No, because
o'clock.
then we're in the same situation.
We are.
Why do that? So like I said, the towns I talked to, they don't, except one, if there was an issue, then they went back. So if, say it was a yes and no vote, and it was close, then they went back. She said she went back and she actually found one person that wasn't technically a registered voter. But they didn't go through that process like a normal town meeting where they checked everyone in.
I mean, it's either we do it right or we don't, right?
I say we try it. We
Try what?
try it. We try doing what we said, getting rid of the in a manner consistent. We put everything on the ballot. We don't verify anybody ahead of time. We don't make people register. The registrars can look through the listing as the meeting's going on. We can kind of know if somebody definitely isn't a registered voter. And then when we call for the vote at the end, if it's, the people online are going to have to raise hands to vote. So we'll have a definitive yes, no count of them. So if they're split 50-50 and the room is split 50-50, then we can deal with it as we need to.
And the
I think
chance of that happening,
it's
I mean,
highly unlikely.
why you would vote against moving it to a referendum where people have more of an opportunity to participate
And
vote be
don't
heard.
they read a statement that or they used to, that like you're responsible, you're saying you're legally able to vote in any vote or fraud? Because prior to a few years ago, when we had town meetings and we voted by hand, they never checked your registration status. They read that you're legally voting and you have the authority to vote.
Yeah.
Some kind of
I think
statement
she-
like that.
I think that internet does read that statement at
Yeah.
every town
Yeah.
meeting.
The only time we went to checking the registrar list was when we started doing paper ballots on everything a few years ago.
What happens if the town meeting, they vote not to send a referendum? Then what's our next steps at that point?
We would ask the town attorney. I have no idea.
I've never heard that happen, but you never
Yeah.
know.
I say we just go with Christine's idea.
Yeah, me too.
Let's label it Christine's idea.
Let's call it Brett's idea.
So basically what it is it's actually the motion I made.
Yes.
That
And,
Nicole seconded.
we've seconded that.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
So I will augment the call, and instead of having the registration link for the Zoom, I will have the actual link to access the Zoom. Or do you want people to still register and we'll just let them in as they go? I'm just concerned about, I know Zoom bombing isn't as much of a thing anymore, but I'm just a little worried.
Oh, I think you should still let them in like we always do.
Okay,
and
so
not
we'll
just-
still have people register.
There's just no cutoff date.
Yeah.
Cutoff time.
They can register as they sit down.
Again, you have a whole host of people who already
Wait.
think that they have to register. So just let them. It's just not, there's not going to be a
So
cutoff.
you're saying
date.
if someone's coming in you want them to register prior compared to like when they sign into our town meetings now, they click on the link and they're here.
So when
Or-
somebody
or
signs into a
selectmen's
town meeting right now, like I have a phone number up. So I can't verify that that is a resident. If you make them register, then they have to put in their name, their address, and their phone number. That's what we make them put in right now. So right now we have a meeting. It's set up as a webinar for the town meeting so that we have more control over the functionality. So I'm just concerned if we don't make them register, then we may have iPhone, and not Steve
Yeah.
Smith, Mike Jones, Joe
There's
Gross.
nothing wrong with registering. You had an issue with the fact that we were cutting it off and excluding people. There's no exclusion. They just, I think it's important to know who's online.
And we can make it, right now, we have it set up so that people have to be manually approved because the registrars were going in and do it. We can have it set up so it's automatically approved. You register for the webinar, you get the link, you're definitely going to be able to go. Nothing's going to stop you. So I think that's the best compromise of still having the checks and balances if we need to verify voters, but allowing everyone to come in.
And we have the resources that are going to be able to send them the link up until,
It'll automatically
10,
come
15
through Zoom.
oh,
So
okay.
they'll register, they'll click register me, and then they will get the link to the email that they've supplied. And then that gives us the data, just like we would have of who's in the physical room that the registrars have checked in, who's come to the virtual room.
Okay.
So I think that's a good
So
verification.
there won't be a Zoom ID on the call or what?
It'll still look exactly as it does. It'll just have removed for the purposes of verifying registered voter statement. But we'll still have this link and the webinar ID.
And then things changed on after April 30th and don't have to worry about it. Okay. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
You look at me. No, I'll concede to that one. I don't love it, but I'll concede to it.
I think it's a good compromise, actually.
I
So,
think it's a great compromise.
okay, so let's vote on this. All in favor of the motion as made and seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 3-0. Now, minutes. Nicole.
I make a motion to approve the Town of North Stonington Board of Selectmen meeting minutes on April 12th, 2022 at 6:30 PM as written.
Second that, Brett.
Second.
Okay, I have to make one amendment on number 8. Sale of furniture, 298 Norwich Wilson Road. It says approved for May 14th. We just did that this evening. When we did this originally, approved
Oh.
it for April 23rd. So,
Like a mind reader.
so we just have to change that to, not change it, just, change it. It was approved for the 23rd. We made it the 14th tonight. So we're just to amend that. That's it.
So,
Motion to approve
just-
as amended.
Yes.
I just want to clarify, so what is the actual date? It's the 14th,
The actual
correct?
date is the 14th, but
Okay.
when we did this meeting.
It was the 23rd.
23rd. Right.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I will make, do I need to make a new motion?
Just, you make a motion as amended.
Yeah.
Approve as amended.
So make a motion to the Town of North Stonington Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes from April 19th, 2022 at 6:30 PM with an amendment to number 8 to reflect the 23rd instead of the 14th.
Correct. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any public comment, online or in person? None? The next meeting, right now, we got a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. We'll have to get back to you. I'm waiting for something to come in on the RFP for the one-story wing. If that comes in, we might have to have a meeting to get that ball rolling. If it doesn't come in, then we'll probably cancel that meeting. Okay, so I'll get back to you before the end of the week. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the meeting is adjourned at 8:10. Thank you.